Boom. Hello and welcome to the Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Byron Rodgers. This podcast is dedicated to the executive protection practitioner, the private security professional. In this podcast, we're going to talk about the mental, emotional, psychological, physiological fitness that goes into being an efficient and effective executive protection agent. Whether you're in law enforcement, whether you're a mom that's looking at how to protect her children, or a father that's focused on how to protect his family, I believe this podcast has something for all of you. We might even get into some tales from the crypts of true Hollywood stories from time to time. I'm doing this podcast because I feel the reality of this job is simple. If you really want to be good at executive protection, it's more than just a job. It really is a lifestyle. And those of you who've been in the game for any serious amount of time, you already know what I'm saying is true. So if that sounds interesting to you, enjoy the show. Out. Boom. Hey, what's going on? Byron Rodgers here with Executive Protection Lifestyle and Bravo Research Group, a private security company out of Southern California. I've got a guest today that I'm excited about, as always, but I just know we're going to learn a lot about a lot of things that are going to demonstrate a lot of value to everyone on the podcast today. I've got Rafa Conde here with me, and I'm excited to have him. How you doing, Rafa?
What's up, Byron, my man? Great show, man. Love what you're doing.
Thanks, man. Thank you. And right back at you, like your Man of War podcast is awesome. I think it's timely. I think the world really needs a lot of the things you guys are talking about on there. So I'm honored to have you, brother.
Thanks, man. Honored to be on.
Fantastic, man. So starting from ground zero, I always think it's best to have everyone introduce themselves because I've butchered a few of those. So, who are you at your root?
Well, at my root, man, I'm a guy that's basically fighting on a mission, really, to transform men into warriors. All right. My story goes back to when I was younger. I started the martial arts, went down, many, many years of training, over 35 years right now under my belt. I basically was a Wall Street broker for about 12 years and learned a lot about mindset. But more importantly, from there, I transitioned over to be a police officer. And most of my career was undercover narcotics, worked in different specialized units such as SWAT, Vice. Currently, I am a hostage negotiator and also field training officer. Had a good stint there, and also as a police academy instructor, which I still teach at the police academy. In between that, I did a bunch of PSD work in Central America and South America. And basically about 4 years ago, I decided to start focusing on the forging of men into warriors, which is, in my opinion, hugely needed in our society now. Absolutely. And we've seen the emasculation of men, and we've seen just men go out there and underperform in every aspect of their life. So my goal was to bring the old warrior ways, the old warrior creeds, the ethos, right, that we live by, and instill it in modern day, right, in our modern day, right here, right now. So I started a movement. I started a podcast called the Man of War Podcast. We've done very well, thank God. And we have a very tight following across the board. I also run a martial arts school here in Boca Raton, Florida. And what we did is we linked the Man of War company with the actual martial arts school. So we have an entire training center down here now in Florida, which includes the Man of War brand, which now we've gone into doing different events throughout the year, which is the Crucible. We have 2 Crucibles per year, which is a 5-day, 4-night training event. We have one coming up next month. Also the Conclave of Warriors, which is a yearly conference or experience, as I like to call it, for warrior-minded individuals. And obviously our training facility, our apparel brand and all that good stuff in-house here. So we got a lot of shit going on. But more importantly, man, in the essence, I'm just a guy really trying to go out there, help people, and really have people learn from my fucked up experiences in life and be able to make something out of it for sure.
Heck yeah, man, you're contributing on a high level, brother. Man, That to me, man, that's what really gets me excited. I think we have that in common. If there's one thing I want to do is contribute, and that contribution is huge that you're making. And, on kind of what you said, I believe that, masculinity and the development of masculinity and healthy masculinity, like ladies, if you're listening, that's not just for the well-being of men. You know what I mean? That's something that is going to help our society exponentially when you're dealing with less toxic masculinity and there's less men out there underperforming, as Rafa said. Everyone wins. There's going to be more provision and protection overall for everyone.
100%, no doubt.
Yeah, 100%. So if you had a favorite saying or mantra or something like that, what would it be, Rafa?
Typically, it's this, all right? Your life may be challenging, okay, for sure. This is the first thing that I like. You might go through struggles in life, right? But in the end, you must continue to power through. So I'm a big believer in moving forward in life and learning from our mistakes. So if you were to tell me, hey, what do I tell people right off the bat? Okay, how do you continue moving forward in life? I say your life may be challenging, all right, of course, but more importantly, all right, is how you react to those challenges and how you overcome them. So I'm always about overcoming, about perseverance, about tenacity. And it's very simple. In life, we look at it, at least I look at it in a way where it's, every struggle, every daily struggle that we have, to me, whether you win it or you lose it, you're learning from it regardless.
Yeah. And that's awesome. Making everything serve you in one way or another. Even the I was saying today on one of the videos, even the things that sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, but you can make every single one of those failures serve you if that failure makes you better.
Yep, I agree. 100%, man, with that. That's not, that is spot on right there. This is what I like to say is this: your life may be challenging, it's full of dangers, but never retreat. Your last battle may be your greatest victory.
Boom. That's awesome. That's good, man. To go, man.
That's what I live by right there.
That's awesome. Yeah, you got to face life on your feet. And are you still active in law enforcement or protection or anything?
I am. Yep, I am.
Okay, outstanding. What would you say you like the most about your job in law enforcement and protecting and what you're doing now?
Well, I love serving the community. And that's a big thing for me, going out there and really helping people. But more importantly, and that's just a very generic, okay? But more importantly, I'm no bullshit aside, I like chasing down the fucking bad guys. I like to be able to go out there, that's it. I like to go out there and say, look, yeah, I'm here to serve the community, but these bad guys, these violent criminals that are out there, that's when I really step up my game. That is when my mentality goes into freaking code zero, right at that point. And I'm all about focusing on taking down the bad guys, because there are so many bad people out there. And it's unfortunate that our society believes otherwise. And I'm not here to scare everybody and say, hey, no, you got to live an attentive life and aware life. But when you go out there and when you see what I see, dude, there are bad people wanting to do some bad shit.
Yeah. That was one of the things that made me hesitant about police work was like, my experience in combat was overseas, so like I kind of had the liberty of like leaving a lot of it. And then, I knew that if I started to engage in that type of work here, then it would change the way I see everything here. Granted, of course, naturally doing what we do, we're always looking for those things anyways. That was something that I considered as I was getting into things. But what you said about, wanting to stand between good and evil when you see those bad guys, man, I think, with healthy masculinity, like that's like really kind of, that's ingrained in us. You know what I mean? Like to set a standard between the weak, and innocent and those predators, man.
Yeah, no doubt. If you don't have that in you, my book, you're not a warrior. All warrior-minded individuals have that. That is embedded in their DNA, in their soul, and their spirit. And this is one of the reasons that I took on, law enforcement. When I first came into law enforcement, my entire goal was to work narcotics undercover. Why? Because I felt drugs were a major cause of violence in this country, and they were killing kids. And it was just drugs are a big deal as far as bad things happening across the board. Crimes, I would say more than 50% of crimes are due to drugs. So, I was able to go out there. I was able to shine on the street, and I was able to go out to different task forces and DEA. And
that's awesome. What would you say were some harder lessons you learned from the streets and your time out there?
I'll tell you, when I was a young rookie, going out there at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and kind of rattling my sergeant's coffee as he's sitting there and in the restaurant having his coffee, and then freaking out, all he hears is me going over the radio chasing some guy with a gun, 1031 on foot, So I was kind of known for that back then, where I was so quick to just, very proactive officer. The second that I saw something, it was just boom, jump, go, run, chase.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So that was a learning curve for me in the sense that I wanted to do that so much. However, when I look back and when I see the positions that I put myself in tactically, they weren't the greatest. I was out there. I can tell you stories of me being out there at 3 o'clock in the morning. I worked in one of the most violent cities in the entire country. And at that time, some of the streets were, we're talking about just cave holes, man. You would go into these streets in the ghetto, and you would be chasing these guys. And the next thing you know, you're in the middle of nowhere. You don't even know where the hell you are, and you're fighting for your life. He's trying to reach for his gun. You're on top. You're trying to do this and that. Some of these battles were they were maybe 15, 20 seconds, but they appeared, to me, they were like 2 or 3 minutes, So tactically, yeah, man, I put myself in some fucked up positions, with my drive.
Yeah. So kind of the tunnel vision thing and, learning those lessons that a lot of us with a good engine in us end up learning.
Now 15 years later, now 15 years later, when I teach these guys, and they want to do that, I'm like, listen, slow your roll. You got to put yourself in a position of tactical advantage. Never, give that ground up. You want to chase. It's great to take a chase, but make sure you got backup in the air and make sure you know where the fuck you're going. Make sure, by all means, that you are ready to draw your weapon if you have to.
Yeah.
It's not just cool enough. We've seen a lot of cop videos where guys, throw themselves, and the next thing, they tackle the guy. That is a very, very, very small percentage, of the realities of what happened out there. A lot of times you'll do that. It doesn't look pretty on camera. You fall flat in your face. Next thing you know, you're on the ground with a guy in a gun standing up on top of you. So, tactically, I think that was my biggest lessons, to answer your question, that I needed to improve my officer survival skills and my tactics from a young point.
Yeah. So like kind of experience refined your ability to make higher quality decisions that would increase your survivability essentially.
100%. Yeah.
That's funny. I think, we all learn these lessons in different areas of our lives that, that's the process. No, that's good to go. And what's your martial arts background, if you know?
My background, I first started in Chinese Kung Fu, Hung Gar, and then I went into Aikido. I studied that for a very long time. Then I jumped into Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, and then Judo actually which is also one of my bases. So it's a mixture of Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, Aikido, and Judo.
That's what's up. So fighting,
a
lifetime of studying fighting, essentially.
We're mostly a throwing art. We're not say ground based, but we're mostly a throwing art. We try to exterminate the fight as soon as possible. And that's what we teach here, man. Mindset, and make sure you get your people off balance, get them down on the ground and finish them.
Outstanding. Yeah. Don't fight, end the fight. What would you say is your proudest moment out in the field?
There's a couple of them. I could tell you, going out there and speaking in front of a police academy class when they graduated, that was very important to me. I was able to disseminate a very strong message to them, and I had a lot of them walk up to me after class and say that it was a very inspirational speech going forward. They were going to carry that. That was one of my proudest moments on the field. Also, making different units, for example, getting selected to be a SWAT officer, after the tryouts. That was a highlight in my career, no doubt. Yeah. Being being put in a special assignments, like being assigned to the DEA but if you're going to ask me really what stood out in my career, I worked a year undercover in the VA hospital, the Veterans Affairs Medical Center.
Okay.
I did a major case there. It went international across you could see it on YouTube and everything. And that was my case. And I worked alongside OIG on that. And that was a very proud moment. A lot of work, man. After we made the roundup of 28 arrests, we seized a bunch of different pills and money. And that was for me, that was a very proud moment. All the hard work that paid off.
Wow. That's awesome. I mean, just knowing that you're contributing and doing that much good. That's one thing that I've really, I don't know, something that's always intrigued me about law enforcement is like, knowing that you're doing good, knowing that you're making a difference. You know what I mean? I would hope that that's something, it seems like something that's more easily achievable, on possibly a wider spectrum. When I'm protecting, I know that I'm keeping the environment safe. I'm keeping a client safe, but in law enforcement, it seems like it really is a good platform to do a lot of good for a lot of people. That's awesome.
Yeah, I tell people, even though it's protect and serve, from the protect aspect, we do the best we can. I mean, but the reality is that unless you're working a detail and you're working that type of security, we're almost responsive by nature, especially in patrol. You're responsive. I mean, by the time you get to a call, time elapses and you might not be able to protect at that time. At that point, it's more reactionary, more chasing the bad guy, more, taking care of the crime scene. So, while yes, we patrol and protect the community, that protect is not exactly what you do. For example, you're literally, you can become a hard target, soft target, you blend into that environment depending on what you're doing. You're literally there to protect your principal. And from a patrol's perspective, from a street perspective, we're usually responsive, and that protection, it's a word that it sounds great, but it's not real. It's not reality.
Yeah. You're stumbling on something that I always want to get across to people. Personal protection is, I believe, it's a individual responsibility. What would you say about that? I mean, the police are there if you're fortunate, but really they're there after everything happens. That first 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, I believe that's the responsibility of the individual. I think that needs to be taken a little bit more seriously. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, personal protection is key. I mean, that is, don't rely on police officers to protect you or your family. That's not going to roll like that. I'm telling you straight up, it's not going to roll. So you need to take charge. You need to go out there. You need to inform yourself, and then you got to hone your skill set. It's not just good enough to go out there and watch some videos. You got to go out there, perform, take action, and then start learning to defend yourself, whether it is taking an armed course, whether it is taking martial arts, self-defense courses, whatever, different protection courses out there. Look, the bottom line is that you need to learn how to protect yourself and your family. There's a big difference. And this is one of the, when I used to teach going back different levels of protection, there's a big difference between you protecting yourself and then you protecting someone else. Two completely different facets, right?
Okay.
I mean, you protecting yourself, the game is different. When now you add on another person, 3, 4 people, and then you add a larger crowd, the dynamics change from point A to point Z.
Entirely. Yeah. I mean, there's got to be enough of you to go around and do the whole deed. I think it requires a higher level of skill, really. And you have to be able to influence the dynamic on so many different levels. The more you have to protect. That's a good nugget. I hadn't really thought that through, that way. Would you have any advice to guys that are listening that are considering law enforcement a career?
Law enforcement is very different now than it was 10, even 7 or 8 years ago. All right. Certainly not like it was 15 years ago. Everything is body camera. I would say 90% of the departments out there now are have some type of video recording or body cameras.
Audio.
Somehow, some way, there's still your word no longer is in this country. It is no longer, it doesn't have the power without video or audio to back it up. So understand that if you do want to get into law enforcement, while it is a great career, there's a lot of positive things. It is not the end of the rainbow. It is not something that you have to have a different mindset going into law enforcement. It's not just going out there, going after the bad guy. You have to know how to carry yourself in front of people. You have to know how to articulate a lot on reports. Law enforcement now is very report intensive. You have to, it's almost to the point now where you're going out there in the public and representing yourself, the agency, and it has to be done the way that the agency wants you to do it. You are no longer looked as that type of individual that's really going out there and taking bad guys to jail.
Yeah,
you're expected to do
card's gone.
You're expected to be a psychologist. You're expected to, in the same hat, you gotta be a psychologist. For example, just to give you a quick, in one day you could be a psychologist. You could be helping someone cross the road, a blind person cross the road because they're for whatever reason they're out there walking and they shouldn't be. You're responding to shots fired calls. You're fighting with a guy behind the bushes with a gun. You are responding to alarms. You are responding to domestic battery. You're responding to a deadly car accident. You're responding to a naked dude running around the street and drugs, hopped up in drugs. All that can be in one day.
That's a slow Tuesday in law enforcement.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like armed robbery, strong arm robbery, bank robbery. So car chase. So there's a lot of that, but the reality is that law enforcement, and this is what I tell my police academies classes, is 99% of pure boredom, 1% of sheer terror.
Okay.
You can flip your hat from doing nothing, just chilling out, having lunch. You can flip your hat and all of a sudden you are chasing a guy with a gun that just shot his wife.
Okay. From
0 to 100, and you have your ebbs and flows throughout your day. That's just the way it goes. If you're not capable of handling that, you're probably going to wash out pretty quick.
So you've got to be able to switch gears like that. Like you've got to be like, drop your Chick-fil-A and get it on when it's time to get it on, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially in some violent calls, or some type of priority call like that. And the thing is, as police officers, we shifted to a more saving lives approach, right? It's more reactionary type policing. The proactive part of it has died off since the second that the video cameras came on. Okay, the proactive part has pretty much gone. And why? No bullshit aside, and I'll tell everybody, look,
straight up,
because as a proactive officer, you got to go out there, and it may not look very pretty every time.
Yeah,
but you got to do what you got to go out there, and you have to, be proactive. Be in people's shit. Ask questions. And when you start breaking that nowadays with the laws and this and that,
the PC and the political correctness and
you that's not going to roll very nicely. And agencies don't want that. I mean, they don't want to be part of that. They just want you to go out there, patrol your neighborhood, get to know your business owners, and respond to high priority calls the best you can.
So that's the game. Okay. No, I dig it. I think too, I mean, it's a lot like what we do, man. I mean, in the protection game, it's like, well, it's a little bit like, we both know complacency kills, you know what I'm saying? And in our world, you know how it is. Like, it's like, dude, nothing might happen really ever, but you have got to not let complacency get you, because that one day when you're like, let's just kick it in the back, man. Like, no one's rushed the stage, or we've done this a million times. That could be the day, There's a lot to be said for like fighting the attrition of like allowing yourself to just give into that ease, Like, I honestly, like, people talk about PTSD and hypervigilance and blah, blah, blah. Yo, I'm glad Iraq got me to where I'm like sped up and I'm paying attention all the time, because I know bad things happen. You know what I mean? Like those IEDs that got me and all the stuff that I dealt with. I believe it put me in a headspace where like, I'm just not letting my guard down. You know, I'm courteous, I'm kind, but you know, I'm with General Mattis on it, you know?
Totally. And I agree, man. And look, when you start looking at it from all different angles, you're saying, you know what, it is a good, the way that you have to look at it is from a good attacker, a good bad guy that will structure things, especially from your walk of life. He's going to do his best to try to get you on that downtime, right? On that, what we call that inhalation. All right. It's that pause, that momentary pause when you're inhaling in combat. That's the weakest fucking point of combat, right? When you're inhaling, because you're defenseless, right? You're the strongest when you're breathing out, right? When you're driving, when you're focused, that's when your focus is. And that's, you know, we talk about that all the time. You know, when I used to teach the EP classes, same thing, you know, hey, look, man, when you have that inhalation, when that bubble becomes soft and you're inhaling your stomach becomes that little round knot, okay, that's when you're going to be pierced. That's when they're going to pierce the fucking veil. A good man, a good guy that knows his shit, okay, will attack you when you're at your weakest. Yeah. You know, Murphy's Law also is right around the corner.
Murphy got a baseball bat, man. Murphy doesn't play. Yeah. No, and that's the game. It's a psychological game. And I think a lot of things are won and lost in that psychological realm far before they happen. And you know, finding work and thinking, you know, what's next? Where are we going? Where are we vulnerable the whole time? It's interesting that I'm digging those parallels. Well, how would you say, switching gears a little bit into probably the deeper things, more interesting stuff to you, the martial arts, man, how would you say your study of martial arts has influenced your life?
From a perspective of spirituality, from a perspective of mindset, from a perspective of honing the skill set, it has been invaluable completely. Okay. I mean, it has been see, the problem here is this in our society nowadays, and it goes pretty much across the board. The big schools out there now are just MMA related, right? Everything is MMA this, MMA that, jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu this, whatever. Thai. A lot of the older school martial arts, like I teach, even though they're applicable, very, very applicable. Problem is this: when we train here, we train with one focus only, and that focus is life or death. Okay. When you start looking around at 95% of the schools out there, their focus is competing and winning. Okay. Competition is great. I have nothing wrong with competition. There's nothing wrong. As a matter of fact, I like to push my students to compete and to challenge and to go against one another. That's all great and dandy. But you have to understand that there's a huge difference between, as far as martial arts goes, that when you're out there, and I say this for a lot of the BJJ guys and even some of the judo guys, where they're sitting on their back for fucking 20 minutes trying to subdue someone. And, you know, the code is, you know, let them make a wrong move. So you're kind of leading them into another movement, and then you're choking them out, arm bar, whatever. And don't get me wrong. In judo, newaza, which is the groundwork, is very, very much, I mean, I train that. We train very heavily on the ground as far as that goes. However, when we start looking at aspects of specific arts for the street, combat arts for the street, right, you have to be careful how you train, man. You got to be careful because MMA is not self-protection. Okay. It can get you fucking fit. It can get you hitting hard. It can get you responding and being really good. But I have been part of MMA fighters getting their ass kicked with a freaking crackhead, you know, breaking a bottle and fucking slashing one dude, and the guys on the ground have no idea what the fuck hit him. Oh, no. Okay? Yeah. And when you see these videos out there of the BJJ guys on the ground and they rappel and they do this and listen, all great and dandy. That's all fucking, but out of those videos, I'll guarantee you I could fucking film 3 or 4 times where being on the ground in a fucking concrete floor when you have 5 guys pounding your head and it's not where you want to be. So, you know, train on the ground, train standing up, train your strikes, train your throws, try to balance yourself, right? You know, not one way. There is no such thing as one martial art. The other day I had Michael Johnson, UFC fighter, number 8 seed in the world, on the podcast. And I said, listen, where has the, MMA gone today? And he's like, well, it used to be the ground game, but now guys are going back to spinning kicks and strikes and things like that. Because why? Because the ground game now has become a part of it, but it's not. Now people have learned how to outmaneuver that ground game. And when the Gracies came on board, it was very fresh for 15, 20 years. Mm-hmm. But now the trend is going back into strikes, which I believe striking, throwing has to be part of your arsenal too.
100%. Create distance, showstoppers. I mean, yeah, I would absolutely agree.
And let me tell you something, one more thing, Byron. And I know that a lot of people are going to go and say, "Oh no, bullshit against." Listen, I've been studying and reading and methodically fucking trying to all this bullshit about all fights go to the ground and shit. Let me tell you something. That's a bunch of shit. Most fights do not go to the ground. Most fights go to the ground eventually. Right? Eventually, because somebody trips, falls, they get tired, they fall to the ground. But the reality is that fights, they can last 20, 30 seconds standing up and you're fucking struggling. So your stand-up game needs to be, and I've seen this many times where people say, hey, all fights go to the ground. Yeah, but those fucking 30 seconds that you're out there and you're 40 seconds, you can terminate that fight before it hits the ground. If you're skill set, your striking skill set, your throwing is good, your timing, your distance, okay, your off balancing of your opponent. So you got to be very careful, because a lot of police officers are trending to, and even in my own department, I say this, okay, everything is ground, defend yourself in the ground, which is great. You need some of that practice for sure. But what about the striking? What about the throwing? What about the controlling?
Yeah.
People are throwing that away, and it's important to keep that there because you've got to be balanced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I'm not a big martial artist. I need to up my hand-to-hand game. I've been doing heavy weapon stuff. And so this year I'm definitely going to start getting into that a lot more. But just from the outside looking in and based on my experience, I just don't want to be on. I feel like when it comes to the ground, you need to know how to do it, how to survive, and how to win if you're there. But I feel like in a hand-to-hand engagement, you don't want to be there if you can avoid it. And so understanding, your stand-up game and how to not end up on the ground, I think is got to be integral. And I haven't been on the ground yet in all of the stuff I've gotten into. And it's kind of been the goal not to be. So I feel like it's something, if you need it, you need to know how to do it. But if you can not have to need it, you're in a good spot. So it's all about being well-rounded,
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Man. And kind of what I'm getting at too is like, I feel like with my physical disciplines in training my physical body, I'm unlocking something within my mind, will, and emotions in my soul. I'm unlocking something in my spirit that's driving me through my day. I'm unlocking chemicals and endorphins in my body. And I'm unlocking like a type of intelligence. I'm finding myself. I'm understanding myself. I'm learning who I am, but I'm building who I want to be. I'm unlocking a type of emotional resilience of, hey, I'm under this weight. I'm pushing this hard, but I'm pushing through it. And it's turning out, it's always been a staple to where I think I've gotten a lot of strength. And I think a lot of men, women, people listening really need to maybe take a second look and think like maybe the gym or the dojo or the mats aren't just really about being vain or physical, but there's a lot more to learn there. What would you say about that?
Oh man, that's, yeah. I mean, to me, going to the gym, working out or training at the dojo, it's way more than just the physical aspect. It's all about developing that internal fortitude, developing what we call that mushin, that state of mind, right? Being present. When I have my students come in to train, the first thing that I tell them is whatever day you had out there, you need to leave that out there. When you step into this dojo and you tie your belt and you step on this mat, okay, it's all about mindset, respect. It's about integrity, honor. It's about giving it 110% when you're on this mat. There is no such thing as quitting. You must overcome any challenges. And there are days where we train very, very hard. And some people want to fucking quit. But I say, listen, if you got to throw up, go to the bathroom, throw up, come back on the mat, we're going to continue.
Yeah. And then that translates into the rest of the day, into life, and
100%.
When it's inside your body, it's inside your biochemistry. Like before you even went out into the day or on a regular basis, you're visiting this most primal aspect of yourself and teaching it, how to persevere and work through and inoculating yourself to pain. I feel like we're just able to live better lives as a result of those disciplines.
100%. It cleans you, Byron. But you know what it does? It really gives you that cleansing, man. It's kind of, if you clean yourself out, 3-4 times a week, it's a whole different way. And, with that said, I also add, and a lot of people look down on this, but I'm a big believer in meditation. I'm a big believer about having that state of clarity of mind. As a matter of fact, I believe that you should meditate and clean your mind at least 5 minutes a day. And you don't have to sit in a lotus position with a Buddha with incense, okay? But you can take a spot anywhere in a corner and just breathe in and out and just have absolutely zero thoughts, even though it's hard to do at the beginning, but try to just cleanse with that breath control and doing 5 minutes a day will change your life after a month.
Really?
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. When I studied martial arts, okay, I was on my quest was searching for the warrior's mind.
This is good stuff.
I trained directly Zen Buddhism, right? I trained Zen Buddhism directly under the first American Buddhist monk. And his name was Philip Kapleau. And there's still many books that he has written. When I walked into that Zendo, that area where people sit and meditate, for me, I got to a level where I was very close to being ordained. But because I am a Christian, that was kind of like interlocking with some of my beliefs. So I took from that the Zazen aspect, right? The technical and the philosophy of sitting, breathing, understanding the concept of what a koan is, which is like riddles that you have to kind of, the word is enlightening. You have to get enlightened. It's kind of deep. It takes a long time to explain, but for the most part, I have taken that Zen mindset, right, and integrated it into everything that I do. Meditation for me, I do 10 or 15 minutes per day. I could tell you that I have been to sessions, for example, where you're 5 days in the middle of nowhere. There's no talking. There's no communicating. All there is meditating 2-3 hours a day and doing communal duties such as gardening, sweeping, eating together as a crew. No talking, just cooking, doing things with absolutely zero talking and meditation. When I walk out of these events, or what you call retreats would be a better word for them, there is nothing in my life that I've ever experienced more clearly than the experience of walking into the regular world after doing one of these sessions. You can smell the air. You can see the color green on the leaves. You can feel your feet when you walk. You can feel your heartbeat. You can see a dog from a mile away. You can see just birds. Everything is so fucking clear. So clear. And if we can just attain even a portion of that clarity of mind in our daily life, dude, you're going to be performing at an optimal level day in and day out.
Man. My man Elijah Shaw was talking about this, and he's at the top of our executive protection game too. When you said you take that Zen mindset and put it into everything, what is the Zen mindset? Are you able to break that down a little bit?
The Zen mindset basically it's clarity of vision, right? Okay. Meaning that it's almost like understanding that you are the center of that hurricane, right? You are the eye of that hurricane. Everything that's around you is doing this, right? Spinning in fucking circle, but you are that center. You are fucking a rock. You don't move. You don't get caught up on the whirlwinds, right? You are a rock. When things are moving so fast around you, you can move into firearms. For example, when I'm teaching firearms, I have people move left and right, corners, dips, angles, but you are still moving forward and you are understanding who you are, what you're doing there, and you have that clarity of vision, seeing, okay, this is me. All that other shit around me is happening, and I am aware of it, being completely aware of it. But if you are aware of yourself in relationship to what's happening out there, dude, you're dominating who you are right there. You're dominating the circumstances. You're taking that fight to the opponent every single time.
Awesome.
Right. So if you can, and there is no such thing as a retreat, that Zen mindset gets connected with the domination mindset. The domination mindset and Zen mindset, I teach it, go together. Right. There is no such thing as defending. Even if you're being attacked, you are never in a defensive position. You are constantly in a offensive. So say somebody were to attack you right now, if you move and you position yourself in an angle, immediately off that angle, you turn the tables and you start attacking back. And if you are able to start visualizing that and moving your body and moving your mind to that, you're constantly going to be in the attack. Right. I'm not a believer in retreating, finding a cover to retreat. I rather much more move forward into the attacker, gain your ground, don't give that ground up, and continue angling until you take that attacker out. And this is part of that Zen mindset also, knowing that shit around you is moving, but not being so consumed by it and knowing where your position is. Unfortunately, teaching in the police academy, teaching a bunch of thousands and thousands of people. I've had military contracts overseas that I've traveled, and especially in Peru. The second that shit starts going around and you start seeing people move left, move right, and you lose sight of where you're at. You lose sight of what you're doing. You lose sight of your weapon, or you lose sight of your center. You get involved in all that. And it happens 99% of the time. So it's those few men that could get in, position themselves in a way that they can activate that Zen mind, right? And be able to slow everything down, calm down, and act the right way.
Awesome. So it's essentially being grounded in who you are, what you bring to the fight, not being moved by external factors, but also being able to perceive what needs to be done accurately and then making the necessary attacks and movements towards that.
Right. And in the EP world, basically, you think of this, you're guarding a principle, you're in a position, right? A lot of, especially if you're out there and you're a hard target and you're in position, like looking ahead and anticipating, right? Anticipating what can go wrong. Even though you've gone out there and you went out there the day before, you did an advance 2 days before, you talked to everybody, you cleaned house, you spoke to everyone, and everything is good. You got your alpha route, you have your Bravo route, you have your third, your Charlie route, where the reality is that if you can anticipate a movement and if you can anticipate something that's going to happen, let me tell you how that happens. That Zen mind, you are so clear of everything around you that you don't miss a beat. If that leaf is blowing to the left, it hasn't been blowing to the left all day long or all week long when you did your advances here, there's something wrong there.
Wow.
Right? It's those minute details that really make what I believe a fucking solid ass protection agent.
Yeah. So it's kind of getting, you're clear enough to have, I don't know how else to explain it, but it's a very hyper aware, hyper conscious sense of your environment. Like, cause even in Iraq and also in this job, there are just those times when you're like, something's about to happen. And being able to be in that state where, by the grace of God and the way things worked out, I was able to be like, yo, something's not right. Something's about to happen, and get in the right spot. But like that mindset, that Zen mindset, is being able to stay in that state, and bring it to everything you're doing. So
now I will say this. I will say this also about that Zen mindset is, it doesn't just come overnight. You got to be seasoned. You have to have had experiences. You have to really, I believe that with meditation, it really hones it to a different level. But you really got to go out there and you have to put yourself in positions where you are tested, and you are obviously even more than tested, that you have to anticipate in positions where okay, say that guy, you see somebody down the road, for example, just hypothetically, that guy is crossing the street at a very slow pace. Why is he doing that? Okay, questions like that. Why is he crossing the road in such a slow pace? He's a young guy, doesn't really have to. Why is he angling towards us now? Why is he angling towards the vehicle now? Those little tidbits, and I got myself in a position years and years ago, exactly that scenario. It was a guy crossing the street, turned towards us. The next thing you know, he had a knife on him, and my principal was 3 deep. Luckily, we were able to just push him in the truck and go. But had we not caught that, we would have been way far. We would have been involved in that attack.
Yeah.
Instead of like, boom, disappearing.
Instead of left of bang.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
That's that good stuff, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. And that is not the first time that meditation and things like that have come up on this podcast with regards to being a better warrior, being a better protector. I think there's a lot to be said for how what we do has so many different levels, much deeper than just the physical, that drive us to be able to perform in the physical. How would you define a modern warrior?
A modern day warrior to me, first of all, is a man that lives. Okay. And I say man because that is our mission here. Okay. Is we focus on men. Okay. So this is just, you can add an individual there. Okay. He lives by an exemplary of conduct, a man that goes out there and it's constantly giving of himself without expecting anything in return. A man that is constantly refining his body, mind, and spirit, right? A man that, more importantly, all right, is giving of himself.
Yes.
To me, a warrior is not a warrior without giving.
Service.
All right. But at the same time, I believe that as a warrior, you have to be compassionate. You have to have the tenacity to carry through in life. And by all means, you have to have honor in everything that you do.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. And I find it interesting that, with the samurais and a number of different ancient warrior codes, service was always the point. A lot of the words mean service or servant or, and I think a lot of guys have an idea about masculinity and about warriors and tough guy stuff, macho stuff that I think really misses the whole entire point. That I think we're strong to serve. Like, that seems to be the game to me. It seems to be the most gratifying and most healthiest and most beautifulest and most validating thing we can do.
And when you look at the samurai, they serve their emperor. When you look at the Knights Templar, they serve their king. When you look even at Vikings and you look at the Celtic tradition, you go back and you say, they're constantly serving someone, serving a higher purpose, a higher cause. I'm sorry, but you can't call yourself a warrior if you are not serving that higher cause. It's just not possible.
Yeah. And to be capable, of a lot, but submitting to a higher cause that you can believe in. And
one of the most important things, Byron, is look, hey, you are the way that I relay it to some of my students is, look, you have your samurai blade tucked into your sheath, right? And the idea is that you don't have to draw that blade. You can freaking take your scabbard and and hit somebody over the head with your scabbard, right? But when you draw that blade, you're taking off the head, right? It is that with that edge, you're literally taking off the head, because that is, you can be compassionate, you can be obviously have tremendous amount of mercy, but when it's time to press that button, you want to be able to go. You want to be able to take a life if you have to, and do what you need to do to protect.
100%. 100%. And save a life if you have to. And,
that's right.
Put Humpty Dumpty back together again after you eliminated the threat, then maybe you have to save his life. It's being able to switch those gears, man, and do what needs to be done. That's good stuff. How would you define a coward?
Starting off, a coward, first of all, someone that does not keep their word right off the bat. All right. The second thing is a person that doesn't take action where the shit.
Yeah.
Right. That basically is a non-actionable individual, right? Someone that is fearful of doing anything. Forget about just doing the right thing or the wrong thing, just fearful of doing anything at all. Yeah. Someone that's undecisive, someone that is second guessing themselves in order to make themselves look better. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, a coward, there's a lot of different things that I can say about a coward. And I will say this to add to that. We have many cowards in our society, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And you see that day in and day out across the board, across all media, social media. You go out there and just meet people, and you start seeing what kind of individuals are out there. And you're just like, man, wow. I mean, I'm going to tell you straight up. And I don't cut shit. Okay, I'm very black and white,
right?
And I know that I've cussed in your podcast a few times, so I apologize. I don't know. All right, but we are interviewing for this crucible. All right, we have 15 men. We've interviewed 125 men in total, and we've chosen 15. Yeah. And I could tell you comfortably that 25% to 30% of the people that have come through the interview are cowards in my book.
Man, that's hard. That's tough. Yeah.
Okay. So when you look at that and they know who they are, and if they ever listen to this podcast, they know who they are. And you could change that, though. You could change that. You could stop being a fucking coward and step up, right? Do the right thing, be honorable, right? Have that courage embedded in you and make a decision and take action.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So I've seen it. And then now more than anything, I've experienced it over this whole interview process. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I feel like what the coward thing is, it's a lack of honor, someone who doesn't have honor in their code. But you know what I think is most scary? I think a lot of people nowadays are seduced into being cowards without realizing it, because society, the values of our society are kind of cowardly. I feel like personally, in this life, for me at least, now I'm kind of an interesting breed in that I'm hungry, but I feel like it's either victory or capture in this thing. And I feel like, I'm with that quote, cowards taste death many times, the valiant taste death but once, that little Shakespeare, Julius Caesar deal. But I feel like a lot of people are not unlocking their potential because they've been seduced into believing that not trying to be the best they can be at least once in life is acceptable. And I think that everyone's path is different, but that for whatever reason, I think that there's something to be said about maybe you're not realizing that by not going after your best, it's a fear-driven lifestyle, which is by definition somewhat cowardly.
That's a good way to put it. Good way.
It's a hard teaching.
It is, and like I think, I agree with you in the sense that our society opens the door for cowardice, and I think that it needs to be closed. I think there needs to be accountability for that, and if there's no accountability for being a coward, then in reality, what else is there no accountability for? Yeah. And the thing is, look, in reality, think about that for a second. I mean, everything moves at 100 miles an hour. You can be a coward here, and then the next thing, and people will forget. You'll be a coward there. People will forget. But who's always going to remember you? Yeah. You'll always remember what a coward you were.
Mm-hmm. And that's tormentuous. That's the stuff. And because the things that you gain for yourself in the gym, in life, no one can take away from you. You can have haters. You can have all this stuff people talk about. Like, haters are so irrelevant if you're working on yourself. Like you don't even have time to even get upset because they weren't there when you earned who you were. And so their opinions are irrelevant. You know what I mean? But the things that'll taunt you and haunt you are the times when you back down and you failed. And you can't let that become a cycle. And the good thing, like you said, being a coward isn't like a life sentence. You know what I mean? Like, I have times in my life where I backed down and I failed, and those moments drive me now. I'm not going to let that happen. Fortunately, it happened when I was little. And now it's like, there's a little fat kid version of me in my head chasing me. Right. You know what I mean? There's a little like broke, like bad decisions making, having to apologize to people for things I did version of me. And I keep a little of that shame with me. You know what I mean? Because I'm trying to be a realist and not do those things.
As long as you're trying to better yourself.
Yeah.
day in and day out. And you know that you can be today better than you were yesterday. And if you weren't, then tomorrow you're going to be better. You know, you just got to have a positive mental attitude. Mental toughness goes a long way. But, you know, overall, you just got to be a person that does not let the present moment dictate who they're going to be tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the truth. And you can look in the accountability mirror, say, this is who I am. You know, I don't got my six pack yet, or whatever your goal is. Accept it and work from that point to the next point. And I think that's warrior stuff. You know, just because you failed is not you're not your result. You're not the sum total of your mistakes. You're who you're choosing to be and working towards as a human being. You know,
absolutely.
How would you suggest men or anyone who wants to be in, you know, be a modern day warrior? Where would you say that the battle starts? You know, if they're like, you know what, I need to up my game, what kinds of things can help them start to get on that path?
First of all, discipline. All right. You discipline. I mean, you don't have to look anywhere else but discipline. You got to start implementing discipline into your life. A little bit at a time. Wake up earlier. Set your alarm clock 30 minutes earlier. Go out there instead of waiting till you get home. And then when you're dragging ass to work out early in the morning. Make it a point. Go out there, get information, get involved, surround yourself with other people that are at a higher level than you, not people that are at a lower level than you. You want to surround yourself with people at a higher level, right? You want to have people around you that will hold you accountable for fucking up, but yet people around you that will boost you up when you need to be boosted, right? You want to be able to win these small little daily battles. That is how you start developing your warrior mindset. Okay. It's overcoming these daily battles. It's winning little things at a time. If you lose 2 battles, try to win 3. Be victorious in 3. Okay. Figure things out. You know, the world is an oyster. There's so much information out there. You can go out there and grab tremendous. However, I urge you, if you are in that warrior development, this is exactly what we are in a very tight niche here. We talk about warrior development. Get the right information. Get good information. There's too much jazzy information out there from people that call themselves warriors, that call themselves this, but really have zero experience. And really what they're saying is anti-conducive to warrior development.
Yeah. Because you can like sell anything nowadays. Like you get some good, cool pictures and it's just skin deep. It's like so superficial, so many things.
And I may add to that, Byron, it doesn't matter if you're a Navy SEAL, Green Beret, SWAT cop, or whatever. While your job was warrior, you were part of a warriorhood. And while your mentality at that time was definitely had to be a type of a warrior mentality, does not mean that you have
automatically
that warrior mindset still today, and you can teach it and you could disseminate it the right way. So be very, very careful. I say that to everyone. Okay. Be very careful who you're learning from, and just gather good information, man. Yeah.
There's a lot to be said for that, especially in our industry, because a lot of guys come into the protection game after a former career. And there's a lot of resting on your laurels and coattails. And I used to be the super secret magic ninja squirrel Jedi. And, you know, so I can do this. And it's like, bro, let's just go, you know, let's go to hit up a shooting competition. Let's go hit up the mats. Let's just do like a PFT. You know what I mean? Like, can you still do it? I respect where you come from. But I also respect the reality that me and you might face today if, you know, we have to cash that blank check that we write every time we lace these shoes up.
No doubt. You know, I also live by another motto. It's called, what have you done for me lately? Okay? Which means, you know what? I mean, great that 20 years ago you were some kick-ass special forces soldier. Okay. Yeah. But what have you done today? Are you ready for action today? Do you carry that mindset today? All right. Because, you know, going back to your laurels, and then I see this all the time everywhere. Okay. And I got a tremendous issue with that. It's the lack of self-betterment, the lack of self-progression, because people are still sitting back on what they did 15, 20, 25 years ago. Yeah. Dude, it's time to move and progress.
Yeah. And if you find yourself talking about what you've done a lot, you're exactly the person we're talking to.
Yes,
And
I agree.
There's no shame in recognizing it. You just got to do something about it. If you're telling, because you know what? No one cares really. Like they care, they honor, they respect it, but like they're tired of hearing about it and they want you to do better now as well.
Damn,
your wife's tired of hearing about it. Your kids are probably tired of hearing about it. Yes.
Yeah.
I get it. But we got to get
so you see some guys, I mean, really, you see some guys that have come out of the special forces, right? Yeah. And for the most part, or SEALs or SWAT cops or, whatever they, FBI agents. And it's like some guys have turned entrepreneurs, are doing the right thing. They're doing something really, really powerful, really good, while others are still going back into, whatever they did 20 years ago and just constantly just rehashing that. Mm-hmm. Dude, and then they wonder why they're not successful while the other guys are fucking kicking ass.
Yeah, and then they're at the VA hospital complaining. And the game now is you've got to leverage the trash that warrior time in your life gave you. Now you have to translate those skills and you have to continue living that warrior ethos or you're dead in the water. And it is a slow, painful, dishonorable, ugly death when you look in that mirror. And what I call the atrophy of identity, I talk about this in my book, Finding Meaning After the Military, the atrophy of identity starts to happen. And you're looking in the mirror and you're like, I don't even know if people can believe the stories I'm telling them because I've turned into a person that's so far removed from who I was that and this is when you don't have a purpose and people don't find value in things they don't know a purpose for. And then what do you do with something that doesn't have a purpose? You throw it away because it doesn't have value. And now we have a lot of suicide and things like that in this community, in a veteran community, because people haven't found a way to find their new fight. It's dangerous, man. Mm-hmm. It's got to be done.
Agreed.
Yeah, man. What would you say? So on your podcast, Man of War, right?
Right.
What would you say? Because you interview a lot of warriors, modern day warriors, successful guys that have been special forces. You interview the Jedi squirrels that we're talking, the really high end guys. Yeah. What trends do you see in these guys that are killing the game?
What stands out the most is their mentality. Is their never quit mentality. It's, if I were to break it down as simple as saying, it doesn't matter how many times I fuck up, it's how many times I get past that and continue doing what I need to be doing. Right. Mm-hmm. So that is the main thing. Now, when you start breaking it down to different elements that they incorporate into their life and that I've learned from and that I've applied to my own lives, to my own life. Well, I'll tell you, we talk about understanding the concept of taking action. Like, don't get caught flat-footed, constantly be moving, right? It's a lot easier to transition and make a quick cut while you're moving, right? Mm-hmm. Rather than just being flat-footed. So in other words, progress, move. Even though at times you might fall, okay, as long as you're moving, you can roll out of that and keep on going.
Yeah.
All right.
Momentum.
So I'm big. Yeah. I'm big into constant movement. All right. One of the words that I live by and that I teach is called Kaizen, right? Mm-hmm. Old Japanese word, Kaizen. I'm writing a book about that. It's constant improvement, right? That's basically what Toyota brought that to their main staple back in the 70s and 80s. And that was like their core, right? Yeah. Kaizen. Everything was just small daily progression, betterment of yourself. But more importantly, was hacking away those unessentials, right? Hacking away the shit that didn't work for you, that wasn't any good. All that luggage that you're carrying, throw that shit away, man. All right. So what I've learned from these guys is that
efficiency,
Kaizen aspect of, right? You move forward, you're lightweight, you can cut corners in motion, be efficient, transparent in your movement. And to me, I have implemented it into my life. That has made huge impact into where I am today, no doubt.
Awesome. So Kaizen, proficiency, efficiency, getting rid of the excess, and getting after it consistently. Rome wasn't built in a day, but they were laying bricks every day, type of thing.
Damn right. You got that right.
I love that, man. Hell my buddy dropped that on the IG. I was like, that's coming with me. Good stuff, man. So, and then also the other thing I wanted to, because you've interviewed how many episodes? Was it over 100 some odd
Right now I got 135 recordings. I put out 124, something like that. Yeah.
Awesome. What would you say the trends are in masculine values and traits that you're seeing in the guys that you're talking with?
Man, from every single guy that I've spoken to, I mean, everyone understands that society and the media, for whatever reason, they want the masculine icon type of individual to be just shredded away. They don't want that. They want that. We talk about toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
We've had many guys, and that word toxic masculinity to me is so trendy to use. It's a trendy. I'm not. Look, the bottom line is this: men and women were created differently. Okay, women are phenomenal. I have a young girl. I have a 6-year-old, beautiful. She's my life. She's my soul. And I'm gonna make her a one badass warrior. Okay, but the reality, when you put everything together, it's what we're seeing here in masculinity is that women want men to be more masculine, yet they're not giving them an option to be more masculine. It's almost like women are asking both sides. They're saying, well, I want you to be this masculine, but wait, I don't want you to be this masculine.
Yeah.
And it starts from
I'm dominant, by the way.
Right. So what I'm saying is right off the bat is, hey, there has to be a balance. Look, and I'm all for women's movement and their rights and all that. I'm all for that, man. I want women to flourish, but understand, women will never be men. Okay, vice versa. Men will never be women.
Right.
So stop fucking trying to be a man. Okay.
Yeah.
That basically, this is what I'm constantly saying. Women, stop trying to be a man. Be a woman.
Be a good woman.
Right. And
be good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. And this is and there's so much women. They have so many things that men don't have, man.
Right.
Why don't you just flourish that and become
amazing?
Well, amazing.
The most amazing thing to us in the universe.
Yes, but it's almost unfortunately that they want to prove that they can do everything that a man can do. And then you go back there and you just look and and every guy that I have spoken to agrees 100%.
Yeah.
You talk about bathrooms that are non-gender bathrooms and this whatever. Listen, there is no such thing as a fucking non-gender. Either you have a penis or you have a vagina. Right. Okay. All right. And if you're like that in between thing, which is like 0.000.1%.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But the reality is it's one way or another. There's no two ways about this. Okay. And I don't have a problem. And I also don't want to come out like a fascist where it's like, I don't have, or racist. I'm not, man. Look, I have friends that are gay, and both men and women that are great people. I have no issues with that. And even they understand the concept that I'm laying down the foundation, where the masculinity nowadays, as far as men goes, let men be men, for God's sake. Let men go back to that warrior ethos, to that driving force that basically they were bred on since the first day of this fucking world, man.
That keeps this society safe.
When you tell me, hey, look, a girl could go and fight in the front lines or whatever. Listen, I don't have an issue with that shit. Okay, in the sense that, but don't change what it takes
to get there.
To get there. Okay, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Okay, don't do that. You're not going to have a faster woman than a man. It's not going to happen. You're not going to have a stronger woman than a man. It's not going to happen. And no matter how many, it's not going to happen.
Until they're in the NBA, the NFL, and they're in our league. In sports, because sports is money driven, they don't care about your feelings. They'll send us off to die with a less strong team, but in sports, they won't do it. You know what I mean? So, this is a hot button for me. I agree with you 100%. And I think that day implies night, light implies dark, life implies, everything. It has an equal polar opposite that it needs in order for it to be great and be what it was designed to be. I think that
and I agree with you. Look, I think that one of the biggest aspects that we have in our society right now is the fact that, and this is something that I'm telling you straight up, and what I see this from being a police officer and being someone that that is out there meeting people is the lack of guidance from people that are in a upper level and a higher echelon of life. For example, rock stars, people that represent.
Everyone's kind of going after the shiny thing. I think society works better without masculine accountability in a society that's kind of, driven and that needs to be kind of ruled. I think that's kind of why we're kind of being subdued. And why it's the themes of everything is so emasculating. I do blame men because ultimately I think men are responsible for not standing up. There are definitely some dynamics that, put us at a disadvantage socially to be able to do those things. But at the end of the day, man, I see equal glory, different functions, and there's nothing more amazing than a woman operating in her strength. And I think women should look at men and be like, I could never do that. I could never be that. Thank God for that strong man. I want to be with him. And men should look at women and be like, yo, I could never do that. That's amazing. And thank God that she's doing that. You know what I mean?
I agree 100%. I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's a matter of being able to be honest with yourself, and it's not, look, masculinity is definitely a hot topic now.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people, they frown on it and they make it look like, men are just being male chauvinists and all that shit. I just, you look at the 20-something society now, and, a lot of them have really, they don't have a clue in the sense that they don't have that masculinity embedded in their DNA, in their system. And, we can go back and forth here with a lot of the estrogens and the foods that we eat and things like that. And it's sad, man. It's really sad for me to see that. And my goal is to be, Byron, is to get that out in the world right now and say, listen, men need to start living by this warrior's ethos. Yeah. They need to start, moving forward in their life. Yeah. And I'm a big believer that if we do that, we're going to be in a better place as a society.
100%. And that requires accountability, and that requires running towards hardship, being refined, loving and inoculating yourself through pain and discipline and all these higher values that are not comfort driven and I believe aren't feminine. They're organically masculine. And I think we'd all be better off with a little bit of that stuff in our lives, man. So yeah, man. One last question, Rafa.
Sure.
Daily habits that you would like to, that you believe make you a better person, better at what you do, that you'd like to implement, like let people know about.
So for me is, waking up, being grateful for basically to God, say thank you, God, for giving me the opportunity to put my 2 feet on ground. And then I look at my family. I'm grateful for them. Then what I do is I take time myself in the mornings, whether I do meditation, maybe I'll run to the gym, hone my skill set. I'll improve myself every single day. I push myself, whether it be in the gym, whether it be in some meditation, from a meditation angle, my teaching. I try to always better myself as an instructor. I try to better myself as a father, as a husband. I try to improve myself in all aspects. But if I were to give you one tip for your audience to get better across the board, would be to look yourself in the mirror a couple of times a week and what I call reevaluate yourself every single couple of days. 2 or 3 times, man. And exactly. You look in that mirror and you say, who am I? What have I done? Why am I here? Okay. And, just fucking question that, and then answer that for yourself. I know that I do that. And I'll tell you what, dude, it works. And then I try to go do 2 to 3 cold showers a week, 5-minute time frames. That's a life changer.
Yo, Rafa,
you just take 5 minutes
showers, bro.
Yeah. 5-minute cold showers, man. I'll tell you right now, you go in there and, you fight your fight. You have to fight it. And, but it increases your mindset and that drive, man. Try it. And that's what I tell a lot of my coaching clients. That's what I have them do. I have them do, a few of those cold showers every week, and then we'll see how how quick they could start building that mindset.
You know what? You and Ian Strombeck said the same thing, man. Strombeck. He said the same thing. And my dad has been trying to get me to do this since I was a little boy.
Try it, man. Try it.
It's got to be some magic. I might have to try it. He would bust in and be like, "Why is this water so hot, son? You need to take a cold shower. Men take cold showers. This tightens up your skin, gives you a fighting spirit." He would, my dad, he'd be yelling at me, and I'd be like,
That's funny. That's great.
Watch me suffer. God bless him. I love him. But,
awesome.
That's awesome, man. That's good stuff, man. It's been fantastic sharing this time, spending this time with you, brother. And the things that we've been able to talk about, I think, are much needed, and they're very important, and they're just going to all around make everyone better protectors and better warriors. Where can folks find you, man?
Basically, manofwar.live. That's our main podcast page, and that's our main company page. We also are doing the Crucible, April 10th through the 14th. We have a couple applications still open. You can go to WARDEV, that's WARDEV, academy.com/Crucible. And of course, on Instagram, I'm pretty heavy there. I'm growing my following there. It's at manofwar with 2 R's.
We'll talk soon.
God bless, bro.
God bless. Boom. And to support this podcast, go to executiveprotectionlifestyle.com and contribute to our Patreon account. That Patreon account is what helps me make this podcast possible, contributing to this brand, what we're doing here, making it so that I can bring better guests on, making it so that we can plan more events and just expand the contribution to the private security industry, and also to making America a safer place by teaching people how to protect themselves and the mindset behind that, the lifestyle behind that. You guys are already killing it. $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, whatever you can do that you know you would probably just lose in the mattress anyway or spend on McDonald's. Hey, you want to put it towards something that's going to good use, put it towards a podcast, and get involved in our Patreon account at executiveprotectionlifestyle.com. And if you want to find me, that's ByronRogersMotivation.com. Do whatever you can, contribute whatever you can to that Patreon account, because it makes all of these things possible, ladies and gentlemen. So much love. Thank you, and thank you for making those contributions. You guys rock. We're already doing amazing there, and it's just because of you guys. So thanks once again for those contributions. Boom. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode of Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast. This whole entire thing actually just started off as a Facebook group that blew up and is one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing, executive protection Facebook group online. So if you haven't joined the Facebook group, join the Facebook group. Follow us on Instagram and check us out at executiveprotectionlifestyle.com. If you want to find me, that's ByronRogersMotivation.com, and I'm on all the social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook as well. So until the next podcast, y'all, stay sharp out there. And as I say it, one mind, many weapons. Talk soon. Out.